Hello Army! Welcome back to Zone Taekook channel. Did anyone truly anticipate that a single unscripted moment captured live on a global broadcast could unravel millions of emotions at once, turning a performance into a phenomenon and leaving an entire fandom questioning what they had just witnessed? The night of the Era Ring live broadcast on Netflix was supposed to be another milestone in BTS's already legendary journey. Fans around the world, collectively known as ARMY, had prepared themselves for excellence, for precision, for the kind of performance that had long defined the group's global reputation. Screens were lit across continents, anticipation humming in the air like an unspoken promise. Yet, what unfolded on that stage was not merely a performance. It was something far more raw, far more human, and far more unforgettable. From the very beginning, there was something different in the atmosphere. The stage design was breathtaking, bathed in shifting hues of gold and deep blue, symbolizing tradition and modernity intertwining. The choreography was tight, the vocals powerful, and the energy unmistakably BTS. But keen-eyed fans began to notice something unusual about Jungkook. It wasn't a mistake, nor was it a flaw. It was a subtle shift, something in his expression, something in the way he held himself between verses. Was it exhaustion? Was it emotion? Or was it something deeper that had yet to reveal itself? As the performance progressed, Jungkook's presence became increasingly magnetic. Not because he was trying to stand out, but because something about him felt different. His eyes, often described by fans as expressive and soulful, seemed to carry an unspoken weight. Cameras occasionally caught him lingering a fraction of a second longer than usual, his gaze drifting beyond the stage lights as if searching for something, or someone, in the distance. And then it happened. In a moment that no script could have predicted and no rehearsal could have prepared for, Jungkook broke formation. It was subtle at first, a step slightly off the choreographed path, a pause that lingered just long enough to be noticed. The music continued, the members carried on seamlessly, but Jungkook stopped. Not entirely, but enough to create a ripple, a shift in the energy that even viewers thousands of miles away could feel through their screens. Why did he stop? What was he thinking in that exact moment? The camera zoomed in, perhaps instinctively, perhaps deliberately. His breathing was visible, his chest rising and falling more intensely than before. And then, in an act that would soon dominate headlines and social media feeds alike, Jungkook did something that left ARMY across the globe in tears. He lowered his microphone. Silence didn't fall across the stage. The music still played, but something far more profound occurred. For a brief moment, Jungkook chose not to sing. Instead, he looked out into the audience, into the camera, into the millions of eyes watching him live. And then he smiled. But it wasn't the polished smile fans had seen countless times before. This was different. This was fragile, almost trembling at the edges, as if it carried a story too heavy to fully express. Was it gratitude? Was it pain? Was it both? What happened next only deepened the mystery. Jungkook placed his hand over his heart. It was a simple gesture, almost universal in its meaning. Yet, in that context at that moment it became something monumental. Fans began to speculate instantly. Was he signaling something? Was he trying to communicate beyond words? Was this a message meant specifically for ARMY? Social media exploded within seconds. Clips of the moment circulated at lightning speed. Hashtags trended globally, and reactions poured in from every corner of the world. Some fans cried openly, posting videos of their own reactions. Others analyzed every frame, every micro-expression, searching for clues. But Jungkook wasn't done. As the chorus reached its emotional peak, he raised the microphone again. But instead of rejoining the lyrics immediately, he took a deep breath, one that was clearly audible through the live broadcast. And then, with a voice that trembled just enough to reveal its authenticity, he sang. Not perfectly, not flawlessly, but truthfully. It was that imperfection, the slight crack, the raw edge, that pierced through the polished veneer of the performance and touched something deeper within the audience. It wasn't just a note. It was a confession, a release, a moment of vulnerability laid bare before millions. Why did that single note feel heavier than an entire performance? Fans began recalling recent events, the intense schedules, the recording sessions in the United States, the physical and emotional toll of preparing for yet another groundbreaking album. There had been whispers, subtle hints that the members were pushing themselves to their limits. But seeing it, feeling it in real time was something else entirely. As the performance drew closer to its end, Jungkook's energy shifted once more. He rejoined the choreography fully, his movements sharp and precise, as if reclaiming control. But the moment had already happened. The impact had already been made. And then came the final seconds. The music softened. The lights dimmed. The members stood together, breathing heavily yet standing tall. It was the kind of ending fans had come to expect: powerful, unified, unforgettable. But Jungkook added one final, unexpected layer. He looked directly into the camera, not at the audience in the venue, not at his fellow members, but straight into the lens, the gateway through which millions of fans were watching. And he mouthed something. No audio, no subtitles, just a silent message. What did he say? Fans replayed the clip endlessly, slowing it down frame by frame. Some believed he said, "Thank you." Others insisted it was, "I'm sorry." A few even speculated it was something more personal, something only ARMY would understand. The ambiguity only fueled the emotion. Within minutes, the internet was flooded with interpretations. Emotional threads dissected the moment in painstaking detail. Fans shared personal stories, connecting Jungkook's gesture to their own struggles, their own moments of vulnerability. Why did this resonate so deeply? Perhaps it was because, in that fleeting moment, Jungkook wasn't just a global superstar. He was human. He was someone carrying weight, expressing it in the only way he could in that setting. And ARMY felt it. They didn't just watch it, they experienced it. As the broadcast concluded, reactions continued to pour in. Some described it as one of the most powerful moments in BTS's live performance history. Others called it heartbreaking, beautiful, and unforgettable all at once. But questions remained. Was this planned? Was it spontaneous? Was Jungkook trying to tell fans something without saying it outright? No definitive answer emerged. And perhaps that was the point, because sometimes the most powerful messages are the ones left open to interpretation. In the hours that followed, fan communities became spaces of shared emotion. People from different cultures, languages, and backgrounds found themselves united by a single moment. A gesture, a pause, a look. And in that unity, something extraordinary happened. The moment transcended the stage. It became a story, a memory, a turning point. Some fans admitted they couldn't stop crying. Others said they felt comforted, as if Jungkook's vulnerability gave them permission to acknowledge their own. Many expressed gratitude, not just for the performance, but for the honesty embedded within it. Because in a world that often demands perfection, Jungkook showed something else entirely. He showed truth. And that truth, however fleeting, left an imprint that would not easily fade. Even now, the questions linger. What exactly was Jungkook feeling in that moment? What message was he trying to convey? And why did it feel like he was speaking directly to each individual watching? Perhaps the answers don't lie in analysis. Perhaps they lie in the feeling itself. Because sometimes a single moment, unplanned, imperfect, and deeply human, can say more than words ever could. Had they just witnessed a fleeting emotional slip, or a deliberate, deeply coded message from BTS's golden magne, Jungkook? What made the moment even more haunting was not just what happened, but what didn't. There was no immediate explanation, no official statement, no behind-the-scenes clarification released in the hours that followed the Era Ring live broadcast on Netflix. And in that silence, the mystery only deepened. Fans began to revisit not just the performance but everything leading up to it. Clips from rehearsals surfaced. Old interviews resurfaced. Even subtle comments Jungkook had made weeks, sometimes months before, were suddenly re-examined under a new light. Had he been hinting at something all along? One particular interview clip began circulating rapidly across social media. In it, Jungkook spoke about pressure, not in a complaining tone but in a reflective one. He mentioned the weight of expectations, the desire to always give more, and the fear of not being enough despite giving everything. At the time, it had seemed like a passing comment. Now it felt like a clue. Could that moment on stage have been the culmination of everything he had been carrying? Meanwhile, fellow members of BTS were also placed under the microscope. Fans noticed how seamlessly they adapted when Jungkook briefly broke formation. Kim Taeyoung, known for his perceptive nature, glanced subtly in Jungkook's direction at one point, so quickly that it could easily be missed unless one was looking for it. Was that concern? Was that awareness? Or was it simply part of the performance? Park Jimin, often described as emotionally intuitive, appeared to slightly adjust his position during the chorus, almost as if creating space. Not physically, but emotionally. And what about Min Yoongi, whose calm demeanor often masks deep observation? His expression remained composed, yet fans claimed there was a subtle shift in his gaze during that critical moment. Were these coincidences? Or were they silent acknowledgments of something unfolding in real time? The more fans analyzed, the more layers they seemed to uncover. It was no longer just about Jungkook. It became about the group dynamic, the unspoken communication, the invisible threads that bind BTS together on and off stage. But perhaps the most emotionally charged element of the entire incident was not the performance itself. It was the aftermath among ARMY. Across platforms, fans began sharing deeply personal reactions. Some spoke about how Jungkook's moment mirrored their own struggles, moments when they felt overwhelmed, yet continued to move forward anyway. Others described feeling seen, as if that brief pause on stage validated emotions they had long kept hidden. Why did it feel so personal? Because it wasn't just about entertainment anymore. It was about connection. Late into the night, hashtags continued trending globally. Words like Jungkook, Arirang Live, and We Love You Jungkook dominated timelines. Fan-made edits slowed down his expressions, zoomed into his eyes, and replayed the moment he placed his hand over his heart. Each replay seemed to reveal something new, or perhaps something fans wanted to find. And then, something unexpected happened. A fan posted a slowed-down, high-resolution version of the moment where Jungkook mouthed those silent words into the camera. Within hours, it gained millions of views. Speculation intensified. Some claimed his lips clearly formed the phrase, "I'm okay." Others argued it was, "Don't worry." A smaller, more emotionally driven group believed it was something far more vulnerable, "I'm tired." But without audio, without confirmation, the truth remained just out of reach. And perhaps that ambiguity was what made it so powerful, because each interpretation reflected not just Jungkook, but the person watching. Days passed, yet the moment refused to fade. Media outlets began covering the phenomenon, describing it as one of the most emotionally impactful live broadcast incidents in recent pop culture history. Analysts debated whether it marked a shift in how audiences perceive live performances, not as polished spectacles, but as spaces where authenticity can break through unexpectedly. Meanwhile, fans began noticing another detail, one that had initially gone overlooked. At the very end of the performance, just before the camera cut away, Jungkook's expression changed once more. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but those who caught it described it as a transition from vulnerability back to composure, as if a door had briefly opened and then quietly closed again. What did that mean? Was that moment on stage something he allowed himself to feel just once, knowing millions were watching? Or was it something that simply couldn't be contained any longer? The questions continued to spiral, each one leading to another, deeper layer of curiosity. But then came a development that reignited the entire conversation. A behind-the-scenes clip, short, unofficial, and seemingly leaked, began circulating. It showed Jungkook backstage moments after the performance. The lighting was dim, the audio unclear, but his posture told a story. He was seated, slightly hunched, one hand still resting over his chest. And beside him stood Kim Namjoon. RM appeared to be speaking softly, though the exact words couldn't be heard. Jungkook nodded slowly, his expression calmer, but still carrying traces of what had just unfolded on stage. Was this comfort? Was this reassurance? Or was it simply a quiet moment between two members after an intense performance? The clip ended abruptly, leaving more questions than answers. Yet for many fans it was enough, because it confirmed something they had long believed. Behind the global fame, the record-breaking achievements, and the flawless performances, BTS is still human. And Jungkook, in that unforgettable moment, reminded the world of that truth. Not through words, not through statements, but through a pause, a glance, a breath, a single imperfect note that carried more emotion than perfection ever could.